G'day everyone and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap brought to you by CrowCast. A bit of a disappointing weekend for the Adelaide Crows, but nonetheless we're here to talk all about it, and without any further ado, why don't we just crack straight into it, shall we? Whoops, g'day, and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap. Trying something a little bit new tonight, so if there's any glitches, I apologise, but we'll get through them together. Welcome to everyone who's on the chat tonight. We've got our usual suspects there, Razor and Vardy and PJ Crows. Tonight we are actually trying something new. For those people who want to get around us in real time. JMac, g'day. Page Emotion, g'day on YouTube. We're actually running stages on Discord tonight. So for those that are in the live show chat, if you want to actually come in and have a say, then join the Weekend Wrap stage. Hopefully that's visible to everybody. Assuming we want to talk to you, we'll let you talk. Kempy, nothing on YouTube yet. Let me just double check, mate. It looks all good. I've got 4 online there. Might be just a little bit of lag. Thanks, mate. Macca, Nikki, how are you both?
Disappointed with today, but we'll live.
I'm not liking this little trend of we either get all 3 teams win or all 3 teams lose.
Yeah. I was worried about the Freo game, straight up. I actually thought that we were a little bit cooked and a little bit banged up, and when they named an unchanged 22 or 23 or 55 or however many they choose now, I actually thought, gee, that's a bit optimistic by the club. And I think it turned out that way. We just didn't have anything left in the last quarter, did we, Matt?
Well, certainly we didn't. Certainly not. The midfield was where the problems were, and they just took it out with ease. And you know, they're hardened pros that they took it out. And not only did they take it out, they used it very well. And, you know, like Butts, I thought played particularly well, but he couldn't stop those balls coming in like that.
Oh, I think our defence in general played really well. Nick, how'd you see it?
Yeah, really love the work of all of the defenders. Mostly, there are a couple of little things that still need tweaking, but you know they're young.
Yeah.
And you know some of those passes in were just absolute perfection. There's nothing you can do as a defender to defeat those at all. And I hope that our team was actually watching it as to how that's how you pass to your forwards advantage. That'd be nice.
Yeah, good point, Nick, because there was a stark contrast in the last half of the last quarter. When we went forward, we were basically bombing it. And when they went forward, they had spread well, and they could just pick out who they were going to pass it to.
Honestly, I think it just came down to legs, Mac. We didn't get field position sufficiently to be able to chisel those little passes into forward 50. We were attacking from fairly deep, so our forward 50 entries were pretty shallow and they were pretty high. And anyway, we can talk about that a little bit longer down the track. Now, as I mentioned, you people in bloody chat there, Discord chat, we are running, and I'd love for someone just to try it. You don't have to talk, but I'd love for someone just to pop into the Weekend Wrap stage and just see if they can listen to what's being said in real time rather than through whatever cast you're going through. So, I don't know, someone, Razor or JMac or PJ or someone, just pop into the Weekend Wrap stage and let's just test it out, because I think it'll be something interesting going forward. Right. Now,
well, they seem to be fighting each other not to get there at the moment.
Yeah, it seems that way. But we'll get there. You lead a horse to water and all that sort of stuff.
Hello, no, somebody's there.
There we go.
Good old PJ.
We got Kempy and J Mac in. G'day to you both. And Razor. Now, if you want to speak, you just have to click the little request button. Now, someone's requested Kempy. Now, how do I... There you go. Kempy, come on board, mate. How you going?
Hello.
There we go. Look at that. Kempy, how you doing?
Interactive.
Myself by accident. I didn't realise I was going to have to speak.
Well, you don't have to, mate. But thanks for saying hello. And can you actually hear the voice on like when you're in the stadium channel?
Stand by. God, you're going to make me do technical stuff now.
Nah, it doesn't matter. It's all good. Anyway, thanks, mate.
So you're on the level with Macca then?
Stadium chat.
Nicky, you'll pay for that.
Yeah, I can hear it.
There you go. Look at that. PJ, if you look down the channel list, you'll see Weekend Wrap Stage. If you click on that, you'll be able to join. And Ray reckons it's pretty clear. All right, now, how do I get rid of you, Kempy? Because I've had enough of you now. I'll move you to the audience. Thanks, mate. There you go. So that's an example of the type of interaction that you're going to be getting from the Weekend Wrap from now on. It's just extremely cutting edge. And here's PJ Crow's joined in. So at any stage during the conversation, if you want to have something to say about what we're saying, click on the little the hand up. You put your hand up there like you're in school. Put your hand up like you're in school.
And if anybody's been working from home and doing Zoom meetings, they should be very familiar with the hand up.
That's exactly right. So anyway, look, we should probably get on with it, eh? So let's have a look, now that I've completely disorganised myself. Where am I?
Do we need to do the ladder?
No, Nick, not first. We've got to do the games first. Here we go. Let's do the games.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. So
Please
we had...
the ladder.
Let's just smash into this. So Thursday night, we had St Kilda and Richmond. Richmond absolutely shellacking a disappointing St Kilda. 134 to 48, a margin of 86 points.
Showed St Kilda are going to be a long way off. Everybody thought they were going to be right up there. But the other thing I would do want to talk about that one is the defected got a lot of the ball, but he burned it like he always did with us.
Yeah. Now, you may have forgotten, Mac, but we're zipping through the rounds now because we don't care about the round.
No, I just wanted to have a crack at him, that was all.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Accepted. Friday night, we had West Coast and Collingwood. West Coast pulling away in the end by 27 points, 103 to 76. Collingwood gallant for much of the game, but didn't have the class, I don't think, to pull it off in the end.
Full house crowd.
Yes. Saturday, the Bulldogs slaughtered Gold Coast. Bulldogs looking extremely good at the moment. 118 to 56, margin there of 62.
That midfield could take them to the premiership thing.
It could, Mac. It really could. I agree with you. The Giants, just finding a way to win at the moment. The last couple won by 2 points over the informed Sydney Swans, 71 to 69. The Lions... Mac, what are you doing?
I was going to say about the GWS, it was just sheer effort. And that's where I would have loved to see that same effort by us today.
The Lions beating Essendon, just while Nicky explains to Macca what we're not commenting on the round means. The Lions 102 to 45, a margin there of 57 points. Port Adelaide 96 to 68 over Carlton, a margin there of 28. Carlton not looking terribly convincing. Today, apart from our game, we had Melbourne giving Hawthorn a bit of a touch-up, 104 to 54, a margin there of 50 points. And the Cats, after a sluggish start, 77 to 47 over North Melbourne, a margin there of 30 points. Right. So, Mac, have a quick say just while we're talking. Just have a quick say, mate.
So do I have to put my hand up first or something like that?
Can if you want, but I'm not going to see it.
Okay. No,
all right, Max spat the dummy, so we'll just move on and we'll go to the ladder. And
you took right over me.
We've got Western Bulldogs and Melbourne Western Bulldogs and Melbourne on top with 20 points. Sydney, Port Adelaide coming up at 16 points. Richmond, West Coast, Adelaide and Geelong rounding out the 8 on 12 points. We got Freo also on 12, just out of the 8. Lions, Carlton, GWS, St Kilda on 8 points. Essendon, Gold Coast, Collingwood, Hawthorn on 4. And North Melbourne may never win a game again. So, well, you know, I mean, how long are they going to stay in the bloody competition? Are they going to have a chance to ever win a game again? I don't know. Anyway. Right, so that was the tail of the tape, and we may as well just move on to our game now, shall we? So just click it along here. Now, Mac, are you still salty, or are you right now?
No, I'm okay, but it just pissed me off because every time I was trying to talk, then you were talking over me saying I was sulky. I was trying to talk.
Well, see, we decided a couple of weeks ago, remember, Mac, that we were just going to whiz through the round.
I'm sorry to say, I was only given one-liners, but I apologise for that, obviously.
Thank you, mate. Thanks. That's great. All right, round 5, Adelaide v Crows. Disappointing in the end. Freo 12-12-84 to Adelaide 11-6-72. A margin there by 12 points in the end. Probably flattered us a little bit, I think. You can see there from the scoring worm. They certainly pulled away from us through the back end of that last quarter. Just your initial thoughts, Mac, on the game.
Well, I thought the way we started, we were trying to play the type of football that we have been playing for several weeks now, and I could see that we were up against a pretty good opposition who had a pretty good game plan as well, and we were winning the midfield in the first half, and that gave us a slight edge by half time. In the second half, they gradually wore us down. I think one of the factors in that was that Riley O'Brien, he does very well when he's against a big, bulky ruckman. They put Lob in there after half time, quite a lot of the time in the ruck, and he had a lot of trouble with people like Witts, and in this case, Lob, with their long arms because he's not a great jumper off the ground. So he's a good bodyer, but not a great jumper. And that gave Freo the first use of the ball. And as we've said, we still fought it out very well, and our back line in general fought out very well. But in that last 8 minutes of the game, there were some beautiful passes coming in that nobody could possibly stop. Nobody.
Yeah.
And really, that was the difference in the game, is that if you look at our midfield and line it up against their midfield, the quality of our midfield, we don't have a Fife. And what's the other bloke that's been around since 100 years, but he goes so well?
Mundy
in particular, he just carved us up in that last quarter, even more so than Fife. And the younger boys are there. He's got in on the act as well. And I thought our defence was very good. It fought, but you just can't stop the ball coming in like that. And I do think we've got to have a few changes, because I think we were relying far too much just on Walker up forward. Frampton's, to me, is not going to be the answer. He's just not going to be the answer. He just doesn't take the marks that he should, or when he does, he doesn't kick the goals that he should. But in general, I thought we tried hard, but we just weren't quite good enough. Our midfield in particular was a bit weak.
Nick, what do you reckon?
I think Mac has come pretty close to a lot of the issues that were going on. And I actually thought that our game plan was also to stifle their run, and because that's the way they score generally, is to get that breakaway. And we did that really well, which is why it was such in close. But when Laddie hurt his shoulder and went off and he was getting assessed, the other guys who came into the midfield just didn't bottle it in. so that they could get that quick run out, and they just got those 2 quick shots on goals. And it was really noticeable that Lady was actually quite instrumental in being able to really keep that contested midfield up and going. It was also, there was that delivery into the forward line, and now we slowed down their run, but they also slowed down our run. And it was who was going to work their way best through it, and they were better at it longer.
Yep. I agree with all of that. I think, Mac, you were right. I think we look vulnerable in the midfield from selection. And we'll have a look at selection now, actually, while I'm prattling on about it. But we didn't look like we had the firepower. Whoops, I've gone a bit too far. There we go. We didn't have the firepower to withstand their midfield strength, and it was always going to be about whether we could nullify their midfield enough. And it looked, even from very early on, even though we were in the game for long periods, even from early on, it looked like it was going to be difficult for us.
Yeah, okay, can't argue that. There's a question that somebody's raised in the chat, and that's Haitley. What's the story with Haitley? He didn't play in the sample, did he?
I don't know actually. Nick, do you know?
Was he one of the 4 or something we kept out because there were the fitness tests?
Yeah, righto.
I still have a bit of problem with him even in the SANFL. He does not take the first option and just hangs on it too long and gets in trouble. He's really got to go for that first option, otherwise I don't think he will make it.
Look, there are a few issues. I'm not a fan when we're in a rebuilding phase of picking injured players, Mac. And Tex had his calf. Obviously, Tommy Lynch had his calf. Jake Kelly looked a bit limited in his movement as well. Unfortunately, Gallant, it was Gallant, wasn't it? That was he done a finger or something or other?
Yeah, it was a finger. Yeah,
out for 6. So that was a shame. But we had a couple in there.
That's a long finger.
Yeah, it's a mangled finger. But there were opportunities to bring other players in, and I just feel like it's a mistake from the team. I don't mind Nixie coaching to win on game day, but I think it's a mistake for selection to pick injured players, and they are going to ruin Tex's season if they start playing him injured. And I don't care whether Tex says he wants to play. This selection committee needs to stand up and say, Tex, you're not right. You're going to have a rest. Now, PJ wants to have something to say. So, PJ, I'm going to invite you to speak. I think you have to click something. I'm pretty sure you have to click something there, PJ.
Drum rolls.
Nah. Anyway, you have got access, PJ. You just got to find where you got to. There you go.
He's in.
How you going, mate? You just muted, I think.
Yeah.
There you go.
On now.
There you go. How you going?
Hey!
Guys, how are we?
Good, mate. Good.
Long time no chat.
Yeah, been a few years, I think.
How good's this, eh? Just interactive like 5AA. But what do you think about selection, PJ?
I was a bit worried. I was a bit worried before the game anyway, in general. I think today's game was sort of coming. It was either going to be last week or next week in Tassie.
Yeah,
I think we needed another mid. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
We felt like we were a midfielder short. I think as soon as Laird went off, sort of structure fell apart.
Yeah,
correct. You're correct, mate.
Yep, I agree. And we don't really. I mean, Luke Pedler's going to come in at some stage, but he's a rookie, obviously. Jackson Haitley should be around the mark, but as Nicky said, he's not exactly setting the world on fire at the moment. And after that, the cupboard's a little bit bare. I mean, we've got the Darcy Fogarty experiment. I thought he wasn't our worst today, but I still don't think he's the answer in the midfield. And with Tex injured, I think Darcy needs to go forward and give Tex a rest and maybe bring the Berg in, who had a big SANFL game by all reports, about 10 contested grabs apparently. So yeah, PJ, I agree with you.
Berg in this week.
Well, I would have too, Nick. Again, if we just run through selections, it was mainly covering injured players that I was concerned about. I didn't think we needed to make any unforced changes because of the injured players. But Tex wasn't right. Tommy Lynch was ineffective. And that really cost us because, as we said a few minutes ago, our forward entries were coming from quite deep, and a lot of that was because we just weren't linking up at half forward.
Just a question for you, PJ. Who would you have brought into the mids?
I would have played Haitley.
Yeah.
Well, I think we would have been better than what we did because you were dead right.
Yeah.
We were dead set midfielders short, and it just in the end cost us the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I would have brought Haitley in, and I think I'm not as negative on Lynch as everybody else seems to be, but doesn't look fit. I'd be having Haitley in and pushing Fogarty out of the midfield into more of that Lynch type role. Also need to see what Haitley can do.
Yeah, 100%.
We have to do something about it because it is a light on midfield. I mean, without Sloan there, and I mean, when you're without a Sloan and you're putting in an experimental mid, which Fogarty is, you've just got to be down the tubes by quite a considerable amount, and it just showed up. As you said, when Lairdy wasn't there, then Lairdy, because he can really win a hard ball, and Pedler. And the other thing I just wanted to say about Berry, he was credited with bugger all tackles. I saw him do 3 or 4 tackles, and he I think they put him down for 1 for the whole game.
Yep.
He's high pressure, but they don't all count as tackles.
No. I thought our pressure overall was good. And thanks, PJ. I'll just shift you back to the audience now, but if you've got something else to say later on, feel free to stick your hand up again.
Yeah. And just on Berry, I actually thought there was some of the things he did. There was some really nice little, once again, we're seeing those little bits of the cameos coming through of what he's going to bring. And it's not just that pressure. There was some really nice linking run that he was trying to get involved with. But my problem was that we were so stagnant coming out of defence because at the ground, nobody was moving. They just were all in their spot and they all just kind of stood there. And you could actually see, I know it was in the last quarter at one stage when Seasman on the members wing had the ball. We'd done a great little overlap run and you could see him actually signalling to Frampton, move forward. And Frampton's just like, whoa, and just kind of standing there. It's like, and then he had to go back and then back to him. And of course it resulted in a turnover. And that's nothing actually on Seasman. It's on the fact that the forwards just weren't presenting enough. They were waiting for somebody else to do things sometimes.
Totally agree with you, Nicky. I made the point about how I thought Fremantle in particular, they spread very well in that last half of the last quarter, whereas we were more congregated and not making leads out into open space. I mean, if all our forwards had kept out wide, it would have just made it so much easier for players to lead into. But as you said, Season, he was just looking for somebody making a lead and there was no one leading.
Yeah, we were stagnant, full stop, end of story, really. And I think, again, that's just we ran out of legs. Anyway, look, let's run through some head-to-head stats, shall we? Let's have a look at some stats. Where's the stats?
I don't know where'd you put them.
Here we are. Adelaide. Right. Sorry, just sorting this out. So Benny Keys had. I need to go through the head-to-head stats first. If I can find the damn things, where are they?
Which folder have you put them in?
No. It's
just while you're looking at, you mentioned Ben Keys. If everybody tried 100% as hard as that bloke, we wouldn't lose too many games. And look, the only flaw in his particular game is his disposal is not always 100%. But the one thing that is 100% is his effort to get the ball. I mean, he will die to get the ball. I'm got a lot of admiration for Keys, and I reckon he's added a lot to our midfield.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Mac.
He's been. I want him to be a little bit more proactive though, and I think when they got the run on last week, and also it was the case again this week, he tends to go a little bit missing. So he has to just kind of get a little bit more proactive.
Yeah.
And that's just him taking that next step.
Yeah. All right. So I've finally found where I'm looking. So head-to-head, 374 to 359 disposals. We went at we handballed a little bit more than usual. 161 to handballs to 213 kicks. Freo a little bit more kick to handball than us. Inside 50s were even, 55 to 54. Disposal efficiency was dead even at 74% each. But that efficiency inside 50 stat there, 36%. We had 20 shots from 55 inside 50s. Freo had 25 shots from 54 inside 50s, won by 2 goals. So that was quite telling. And I think, Macca, that backs up what you were saying earlier regarding the manner in which we were going into the forward 50 compared to Fremantle. Yeah,
sadly so. Sadly so.
Yeah. Free kicks were even. Around the stoppages, 37 to 39 hitouts. Clearances, we lost 42 to 35. Although we won, that really surprises me, 16 to 9 centre clearances. I actually think a lot of those were in the first 3 quarters. I reckon from memory they really pulled away in the last quarter with centre clearances. But around the ground...
You're 100% right there, Fee.
Yeah. Around the ground, stoppage clearances 33 to 19, so we got absolutely towed up around stoppage. 152 contested possessions to 139 by us, so we lost that stat pretty convincingly. We had more uncontested possession, as you'd expect with the disposal numbers. Again, turnovers 71 to 63, and you can see there that the heat map for possession, and I'll just flick through the quarters, but you can see there overall how much of the game was played in our defensive 50, that big red zone there, compared to Fremantle, who were able to get field position a lot more often. And you can see, look, in the first quarter there, we had the ball on our terms pretty much. We played a lot through the midfield, and Fremantle were playing in their defensive half. But that all changed around in the second, and we started to get pushed back, and Freo really pressed, and it kind of remained that way for the remainder of the game. And if you have a look at the last quarter, we hardly got it into forward 50 at all. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, probably only about 10 to 12 possessions in our forward 50 in the last quarter. So yeah, they outpossessed us. They had 44% time in possession for the match. And really in the last 10 minutes it showed there they had 36% time possession compared to 21. Marks 102 to 94, although I didn't think we were too bad aerially, but they did take some telling marks in the last quarter. And it showed marks inside 50, 14 to 9 in favour of Fremantle. Contested marks 18 to 13 in favour of Fremantle. It was quite interesting because I don't know how it looked to you guys, but to me it actually looked as if we were a little small compared to them. They seem to have more tall options.
Only in the right spots, Fane. Like the guy up at full forward, he's pretty tall.
Yeah.
And he played his skin off. He doesn't normally play that well.
Taberner.
And Lob, Taberner. Lob, you know, he is tall, Lob, and he's got very long arms. And also their other ruckman, they kept him on the ground as well. That would have given that impression of height, because those 3 blokes in particular caused us a little bit of angst with their size.
Yeah. It just felt like, I don't know about you, Nick, but it felt to me like there were lots of occasions where we seemed to have be caught on the short end of a mismatch.
Yeah, they worked hard to do that. If you're watching from the ground, and they very much, they also in the defence, they were trying to keep Jude from being loose man, and I think that's why they were always putting in, making sure they had like one of those other tools down there, because he had to be accountable on them.
Yeah, very good point, Nick, because he did play very well, I thought, in spite of all that, but they did give him a lot of attention. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, they certainly did. Freo spent the majority of the time during the game in front, although we obviously had plenty of chances. Defensively, our tackles were up 51 to 57, so not much difference there. Tackles inside 50 was good, 8-2, so the Smalls certainly lifted their game over the previous week. 1% is fairly even, interchanges were fairly even. So, look, I don't think the stats, in terms of the head-to-head stats, I think the aerial work shows a bit of a difference there. I think they certainly took some telling marks, but just those heat maps, Nicky and Macca, just show where the game was played and how much we asked of our defence in terms of keeping ourselves in the game, because the ball spent a heck of a lot of time in our D50.
Yeah. Well, there was a massive pressure on our defence non-stop, and that's why, for example, like Butts has had 4 goals kicked on him, but I thought he played very, very well.
Well, I agree with that.
You know, just because of the sheer volume of ball coming in there, and then the goals that Taverner kicked on him, they were from balls that were beautifully placed, and the smaller players had done the right thing and led their opponents out, which meant that Taverner was just leading into open space, and you can't stop that.
No, that's right. That's right. I agree with you. I thought Geordie did pretty well, all things considered. But it was a bit of a torrent towards the end. Now, just putting on the screen here, just for people that might have joined us later, or they're just maybe a little bit shy, Macca, like you, a little bit shy. But if you're on Discord and you're in the chat, come into the weekend wrap stage. You don't have to talk, but if you've got something to say, you can join us as Kempy and PJ have at the moment, and certainly any of you blokes, Tommy and J-Mac and Razor and PJ and Matty, if you've got any comments about those head-to-head stats, then stick your hand up and we'll have you on. I guess we should move on to some individual stats. What do you reckon?
No probs.
Benny Keys was our leading disposal getter with 31, 17 kicks, 14 handballs. As you mentioned, Macca does not stop trying. He had... where's he gone? Where are you, Benny? 2 clearances, 5 inside 50s, 267 metres gained, 89% time on ground. Actually, I think Ben's actually been a little bit down over the last couple of weeks. He'll never be down on effort, ever will he be down on effort. But I just don't think he's quite his tenacious self. Would that be a reasonable comment?
I thought he tried pretty hard today. Effort would not be the thing that you would criticise Keith for.
Oh God, no.
But it's once he's got the ball. But because he hasn't got extreme pace either, often when he's really fought like hell to get the ball, he's under real pressure when he's got it to dispose of it as well.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't got that zoom to pull away, so he's really often kicking under pressure, and so I don't know what his efficiency was with the ball, but I wouldn't think it'd be very extremely high. That's the one criticism of his game. In time, that may improve, but at this stage, he's a really, really good ball getter. He tries his hardest to do something with it, but as he said, he's often under pressure when he kicks it, and that's why I think his efficiency would be down a bit.
Yeah, look, and I've just clicked through his disposal stats there quarter by quarter, and what it shows is a consistency of effort over the 4 quarters. And one thing that we know about Ben is his level of fitness, and he certainly was still running at the back end of the game. If we have a look at his Telstra tracker there, you can see he got a fair amount of possession all over the ground, concentrated a little bit across half back, but really good output all over the ground, 76% in the back half. 10 contested possessions, went at 61% disposal efficiency, Macca. So that answers that question, and that probably reflects what we saw with a naked eye.
Yeah, but it's about 10% off what an AFL player should be doing, really.
Yep, I'd say that's right. 10 contested possessions, as I said, 19 uncontested, 4 turnovers, 3 intercept possessions, kicked a point that should have been a goal. That's one of his big points. Score involvements were down, and I think, again, I think we'll see this with a lot of our midfielders, and I think that's because there was just a lot of fluffing around through the back half and through the back half of the midfield there, without a lot of penetration going forward. So a lot of our transition was cut off or broken down across that centre sort of high half forward area. Mark Spenickeys had 4 uncontested marks, 23 pressure acts. He was on the ground for the majority of the match, 267 metres gained, as I mentioned. Only the 1 tackle from Ben, which is a little bit low from him, 5 inside 50s and 1 rebound 50. So, look, you get what you get from Ben, and what you get is always effort. And I think those stats there show a consistency of effort, maybe without the impact that you would like. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If we could just really sharpen up that efficiency, he'd be a very, very good player.
Yep. Nick, how'd you see Rory's game, Lairdy?
He was very much once again that in and under. He was our leading clearance getter, wasn't he?
Yes, I think so. Let's just run through his match stats and then we'll have a bit of a chat about him. So 29 disposals, 11 kicks and 18 handballs. Again, quite consistent over the 4 quarters. 7 disposals in each of the first 2 quarters, 9 in the third, and kept on running 6 in the last. Even though he came off with an injury. Was that in the third quarter, I think?
Yeah, in the third. Looked like a shoulder.
Yeah. So
he went back on again after about 5 minutes, though.
Yeah, he did, but I reckon he was probably a little bit sore.
Yep.
And they'd got their tails up.
Yep. Again, his tracker shows that he was all over the place. Fair amount of work in the middle, but possessions all over the ground. 15 contested possessions, went at 69 disposal efficiency. 15 contested, 15 uncontested, 7 turnovers though, which is not great, but again reflective of how the game played out. 5 score involvements, 4 marks, all uncontested. 15 pressure acts, spent a bit of time off the ground, as we said. And, probably the knock, although he was playing quite inside, 194 metres gained. So 6 centre clearances, but only 1 around stoppage. So 7 tackles though. 3 inside 50s, 2 rebound 50s. So, I think as I said, I think when we look through these stats, I think what we're going to see is a lot of hard work for not much reward from most of our midfielders.
Well,
and that was my issue with Lairdy's game. Was when we were struggling to get it through the middle. He's more that senior midfielder with Sloaney being out, and he just needed to do a little bit more. Unfortunately, when he was getting it, it was often that under pressure and those high dolly kicks were happening. To be fair, on both sides, there were a lot of those kicks happened. It was like we didn't need rainmakers today, thank you.
No, Matt, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I thought, when Lairdy, at least when Lairdy is free, he does use the ball very well.
Yeah.
When he's under pressure, well, most people find it very, very, very hard to find a man. But no, I think Lairdy's efficiency, Nick, is reasonably good. At least he worked very, very hard to get the ball. and he does think about what he's trying to do with the ball.
He does, but in order to win these types of games, we need him to take that little bit step further. When he's under that pressure, he's got to work a bit harder on getting those better deliveries to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he was a cause of our loss today. I thought he was actually probably our second best player.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Nikki's saying that. Yeah. I'm just saying that I think what Nick's saying, and I agree with her, is that none of our midfielders really got value for possessions, Mac.
No, that's true, and that's probably all credit to Freo as well, though, because I thought their midfield did put a lot of pressure on us.
Yep, 100%. Season had 28 touches, so and was pretty prominent, I thought, for the game. 13 kicks, 15 handballs, 8 marks and a tackle, kicked a goal as well. Did quite a lot of work through the back half and running transition. Let's have a look here. 20 uncontested positions.
I think he's had 3 good games in a row.
He's certainly playing in good form at the moment, and we need him to, because otherwise Brodie Smith is too easy to shut down. If Seaman's not playing well, then they can sit on Brodie and we get no run whatsoever. Having said that, I didn't think we were getting a lot of run from our back half anyway, as you guys pointed out before. Seaman, 8 marks, all uncontested, 10 pressure acts, 459 metres gained, 3 stoppage clearances, only the 1 tackle, 7 rebound 50s though, so that was certainly his role. What I would say about Seeds is though that he's a bit one-dimensional with his disposal. There was a lot of down the line from Seedsman, and not a lot of creative disposal, if you ask me.
Well, that is true, but in fairness to Seeds, I'm going to criticise him a little bit later, but on this particular issue, a lot of times he had the ball and he's looking for someone to make a lead, and there weren't any.
Well, that's true enough.
And it makes it very, very hard when you've broken out in the open. You really should be somewhere to just stick it on their chest, and there is nobody doing it.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And you could see that he wasn't just always looking down the line. He often, that first instinct was actually to look to the middle, and there's nothing there.
Yeah, I thought he played very well today. There's one weakness in his game, and I think when you were saying his stats there, Fiend, you actually confirmed it. Look, he's much of even though he might earn a ball, he's a receiver. He's always only earning the balls that he should get or can get in the open. I remember the reason why he didn't get played with Collingwood, because he was actually playing quite well, but he didn't contest a hard ball, and one that he should have contested. And Buckley took him straight off the ground, and he never came back on the ground. That was in the second quarter, and he never played for Collingwood again. And that's the one weakness in his game that I think he does try very hard, but he doesn't earn too many hard balls. That's just my one criticism of him. Does
every player in your team have to earn hard balls? And I'd like to put that to the blokes listening, if anyone's got an opinion on that. Does every player? I mean, I think every player needs to go when it's their turn to go. I agree with you on that one. But I have no problems at all at having outside players as long as they're effective. We had Rory Atkins play, and the problem with Rory was that he was ineffective for the best part of the last 2 seasons that he was with us. But when Atkins was on fire and up and about and got a bit of space to work, he was instrumental in a lot of forward 54s, and Seaman's much the same. I think the problem with Seas is that when he plays down back, he's a little bit like Jake Kelly. I don't think he likes pulling the trigger on the diagonals. So he would much rather just use his kick and go straight down the line.
But no, look, don't get me wrong, he was in my best players, but I just thought there were probably maybe only 1 or 2 occasions where he could have gone in harder for the ball. It's been pointed out that he did win 8 contested balls, so that's a pretty good effort. And I'm probably being nitpicky by making that point, only because I'm very conscious of what happened with him at Collingwood, and I always watch his game to make sure that he is. And look, he could be well playing to his coach's instructions, because he has got a deadly leg on him as well. So, and he does get. He can carry the ball, and he can also gain a lot of metres. So he may well be just playing to instructions.
Well,
the Collingwood criticism confused me, because I remember watching the first game he ever played for us, and he went in and actually got a couple of hard balls, and I'm just like, but we were told he can't do that. That he never does it.
No. It wasn't that he never did it, Nicky. It was that sometimes he chose not to. That was it. Just on isolated occasions, which may well lose you the game.
Yeah. The other thing too is that there's a decent coach called Clarkson who didn't mind outside runners. I mean, he had Isaac Smith in his team during his premiership years, and then he saw fit to give Ricky Henderson about 100 games too. So,
good points.
There are uses for those players. I mean, Henderson is a very similar player to Seedsman in that respect, and it's quite ironic that we got rid of one and brought in, his clone, basically. In fact, you'd probably say that Henderson is quicker over the ground than Seedsman. It's a matter of using them correctly and having the balance of your team right to be able to use them correctly. And even in the back end of his career, Geelong have found a use for Isaac Smith, and I think them picking him up was actually a really good pickup for them, because they didn't really have that kind of a player. So, yeah, I'm not dirty on Seedsman for as long as he doesn't shirk. If he starts shirking, then he goes in the Rory Atkins basket. But as long as he uses the ball when he has the ball to our advantage, rather than just bailing out and going long, that's what I don't like.
Yeah, the incident that happened to Colin wasn't so shirking. It was just not making an effort when he could have made an effort and stopped the other player.
Yeah. And he does that. He has that hangdog look about him, doesn't he? Seeds. He's got resting, I don't give a shit face. Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's true. But he's an exciting player once he's got the ball. There's no doubt about that.
100%. Anyway, who else? Smithers, I think, did all right. 27 touches, 21 kicks, which is probably a better kick to handball ratio than Seeds. 7 marks, 2 tackles. Again, a lot of work, very deep in our D50. And I think, I think that was probably part of our problem, is that both Seedsman and Smith were playing very deep for long periods of the game, and they're our transition players, Mac. They're our blokes that get it from the defensive 50 arc to the forward 50 arc. And unfortunately, they were the blokes kicking to the defensive 50 arc from deeper quite often. And we had no other runners.
Yeah, well, that's true. And look, I thought he was outstanding, Smith. In fact, I thought he was our best player. And I don't know the exact amount of metres he gained, but am I right in saying he gained 800 odd metres?
Let me just have a look here, Mac. 828. I mean, that's elite.
Yeah,
absolutely elite.
Well,
and went at 82% disposal efficiency too, over 27 touches. So,
I gave him the nod as our best for that reason. I just thought that he did a lot of those balls. He got under a lot of pressure as well. So it's better to do 82% efficiency and gain that much ground. I thought he played a great game.
But here's a telling stat, Mac. Only 3 score involvements.
Well, he was playing so deep. That's why.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's my entire point. He's gained 800 metres, but only been involved in 3 scores, which means that he was far too deep to be effective. And I reckon Freo would have been quite happy for him to be playing that deep, because he's at his most damaging, as is Seedsman, when he's playing, more up around half-back or towards the wing, and he's able to, get some penetration into our forward 50. But we're relying on both Seedsman and Smith at the moment to run it out of defence. The bloke that, for me, is missing at the moment is Luke Brown. And I think we're also suffering from a bit of Rob Peter to pay Paul, in that we don't have a Rory Laird. in the defensive half anymore because he's playing midfield. We don't have a Rory Laird to actually assist in dishing the ball out to our runners at half back. McPherson doesn't seem to be doing that as yet. He seems to be concentrating on lockdown, and that's fair enough. He's a young player, but Luke Brown is the one. He's gone missing. Luke Brown.
Yeah, he has actually. He hasn't been as dominant as in the past. He's always stood out because he's actually just kept stopping them. But I don't know what his stats were today, but he wasn't very conspicuous today. And the other thing is, I thought it has comment made in the chat, and I totally agree. McPherson has been down this year. He's not playing quite at the same standard as he did when he first came in.
I thought he had a good game defensively today, but certainly he's not working. Well, he might be working, but he's not. We're not getting any effectiveness out of him or any benefit from him or impact offensively. And that's the problem. You've got Luke Brown playing lockdown.
PJ's spot on that. Hamill will eventually help with the rebound, but at the moment he's having to defend first. He did a couple of times. Yep. We saw a little bit of that. We saw a little bit of that run from Hamill and being proactive. McPherson, when he's close enough to his forward, he can defend really well, but he often gives them too much space. And they get an easy
very
mark.
Good point. That was my criticism of him today.
Yeah, he needs to just get that little bit closer. He's not as quick as he thinks he is. He's actually up against players who are just as quick as he is. So he's got to just tighten up that little space on them.
Yeah, instead of giving like 5 or 7 meters, he was giving like 10 to 12, and he just couldn't make those last few meters up.
Yeah. Lockie Shoal had another serviceable game, not as outstanding, but certainly 15 and 8, a pretty good reward. But I just want to touch on Tommy Doedee because I thought at times he was outstanding down back. 23 disposals, 12 kicks, 11 handballs, 6 marks, 1 tackle. Again, you can see from the tracker there, all in the back half pretty much, 86% in defence.
He was outstanding because he was actually, they did target him trying to quell his influence back there, but gee, I tell you what, he is a very courageous player. That he goes for the forward. He just puts his body on the line all the time. He is every bit a captain, and he leads, and by example, he's prepared to give everything and put his body on the line, and he takes some outstanding marks. He was right up there.
He just floats through the air. There was one of those contested marks that was coming in, and massive pack, and all of a sudden you just see him, and he just kind of floated, and it was like, yeah, that's his.
Yep. Mac, you remember Stephen Copping?
I do remember Stephen Copping. Yeah, Gazelle player.
Tom Doedee marks like Stephen Copping. Remember Copping had those long arms and he'd just hang in the air?
I reckon Copping would have been able to scratch his toes standing straight up. His arms are that long.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Doedee's a bit like that. He's very tall in the marking contest, and you think he looks exposed, but he's actually not. He just plays very tall. So look, 7 intercept possessions, but again, only 3 score involvements, 6 marks, 1 contested. 18 pressure acts, gained us 360 metres. I was going to say kilometres then. 7 rebound 50s, 10 1%ers. Easily for mine in the top 3 for us this week, Tom Doedee.
Had to be. Yep.
Now, in terms of who's stunk it up a bit.
Yeah, the stinkers. Yeah, there were 2 or 3.
Well, give me yours, Mac.
Well, we've mentioned McPherson. I thought that his game was possibly one of the worst he's played for us. He's not our worst, but I just mentioned because we have been talking about it. Was not up to the standard that he can play. I think McAdam easily.
No, just one.
McAdam.
Oh. God, it's hard being a producer on this goddamn show sometimes, Macca.
Well, you said you wanted one player, McAdam.
Yeah, I know. You'd already said McPherson, so I had hang
I'll
on.
give you Frampton.
Where's bloody... Hang on. Let's talk about... Jesus, you two. Let's talk about McAdam. Because I agree with you,
I
mate.
was trying to help you.
Nah, you'll suck. 4 disposals, all kicks, 3 marks, 4 tackles, a kick to goal, which was a gift. Didn't venture... His two of his possessions were up around the wing and then only one in the goal square. 75% disposal efficiency from 4 kicks isn't great. How does that work? He's had 4 kicks and 4 turnovers and gone at 75% disposal efficiency. How does that work?
Lies.
How does that actually work? I've got that on screen, and if anyone wants to tell me how a bloke can have 4 disposals, all uncontested, and 4 turnovers, and not be at 0 disposal efficiency, I don't know what's going on.
I can't argue with it.
I can't help you. I'm not good at math.
Well,
I'm good at maths, but it just doesn't add up, Fiend.
No, AFL official stats, everyone. 3 marks, all uncontested. Only 10 pressure acts. I want to see his tackles. Tackles inside 50, only 2, so he really didn't contribute to that reasonable number. Look. The problem that I've got with the issue that I've got with McAdam is that he's an X-factor player, and there's going to be games where he doesn't have a big impact. And I think with a bloke like that, sometimes you've got to accept that. The problem is that when you pick 2 other forwards who are on one leg, all of a sudden, a bloke like Shane McAdam is going to be exposed, and he was exposed today. His opponent played very well. Forget his name.
Ryan.
And yeah, so.
Oh, Ryan. Yeah, he played very, very well.
So we needed far more output defensively from Shane, and we actually needed him to get up the ground and lead. Too much time spent behind, too much time spent speculating with marks. It was quite obvious that Tex wasn't explosive on the lead because of his calf, so McAdam had to step up, and this is where I worry a little bit about Shane. Because I think I don't know. I think he's a very reactive player, and I don't know whether he thinks through situations very well.
Well, I don't know about on the ground. I think if the ball is near him, he's pretty good. But you're saying, can he make that happen from a long way out? I don't think so. And
what I'm saying is, can he be more proactive, Macca? Can he make more space instead of just being good when the ball's in his area? Can he actually present and lead up and take a game by the scruff of the neck? We don't, in a game like today where Tex was down and Lynch was out and Billy was Billy, we needed McAdam to actually take the game by the scruff of the neck up forward and present, and he wasn't.
No, I don't think he works hard enough, quite frankly, to be 100% honest. If he was leading around and running around the place and making leads everywhere, it would make it so much easier for our tools to go 1-on-1 rather than have packs there. So you have to criticise him on that particular score. Even young Rowe does that. Rowe gets out the way and usually gets his ball off hands by roaring in and taking it, judging where the ball's going to drop. But he's not standing right next to the guy at the beginning, whereas McAdam goes with those great big flies from about 27 back, and he's never going to make it, but just give away a free kick, and that's just playing bloody stupid, absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
And so therefore, I thought he was given that goal
by Tex.
He didn't Tex, but he nearly stuffed that up as well. It wasn't the greatest of handballs, but he kept running, whereas he should have just taken it and propped. But no, I just think he was easily our worst today. He doesn't work hard enough. I think he's got skills to boot if he's got the ball 1-on-1, and if he works hard enough to wants to get it. But I just don't think it's in him to work hard enough all day, every game.
But it needs to be. There's a young lad called Ben Davis who has been overtaken by McAdam, I think, on potential. But look, if Shane can't deliver, Ben deserves a run in his spot, in my opinion. Nick?
Yeah, for me, what we needed out of him, and you're right, Fiend, was he needed to be the one presenting up.
Yeah.
Because we weren't getting it from the others. And he works quite well close to goal, but it's that up the ground, he's not quite getting to the right positions. And I think that's his inexperience coming through. So they've really got to work on that with him.
They do. They need to get him on his bike a bit. Now, Nick, who was yours?
Frampton.
Billy. Now, I might take you to task a little bit on this because Frampton played...
It was better than last week.
Yeah.
But when we needed him, he went missing.
Well, he needed to kick that goal. That was a shocking kick for goal. He's had 10 touches, 7 kicks, 4 marks, kicked a point. Spent a lot of time working up the ground, which is good from a work rate perspective, but it just left us even shorter in terms of a target when we went forward, because I think when he did work up the ground, he didn't have the wheels to get back to be an option. So he was kind of left in no man's land on transition.
And what I just said about McAdam, he's often, when he's working up the ground, wasn't to the best of positions, and he didn't work hard enough sometimes to get away from his player or to create the space.
Yeah. Yeah, so 3 turnovers, 4 uncontested possessions. As I said, he only kicked a point. Was only involved in 2 scores, 2 contested marks, only 2 pressure acts. And see, this is the problem that we have at the moment with our tools. We got nothing defensively out of any of our tools.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Lynch, Walker or Frampton gave us nothing defensively. And, because of the manner in which the ball was coming in, that makes them a liability because they weren't going to take marks because they're not clunking markers. And when the ball hits the deck, they're just left to look on, 3 hit outs, so he didn't have a huge impact in ruck. I'll let you have that one, Nick.
Well, my point about Frampton would be is that if Frampton is going to be a regular in our side up forward, we can never expect to be a very good side. That's all I can say, because he is not, in my opinion, he's not genuine AFL standard.
Yep. Now, mine's a toss-up between Lynch and Brown, and I'm going to give Lynchy the benefit of the doubt because we know he was injured. So I'm going to have a look at Luke Brown. He had 15 disposals, 9 kicks, 6 handballs, 4 marks, 5 tackles. Majority of his possessions in the back 50, a couple across the wing. 5 contested possessions, 4 intercept possessions, 1 score involvement, 4 marks, 18 pressure acts, 295 metres gain. So maybe it wasn't the most terrible game you'd ever see from a back pocket. I guess my issue with Luke at the moment is that he's a 200-odd game player, isn't he? How many games has Luke Brown played?
He would have had to play that, yeah. He would have had to play a couple hundred.
And a bloke, we've seen Rory Laird transition into the midfield. Now, Lukey Brown was a standout midfielder as a junior, and I just think he can give more. I think he can give more. Now, whether he's been stifled by being a lockdown defender and whether he doesn't have license, I'm not sure. But I don't see a lot of overlap run from Luke Brown. I don't see a lot of creative play from Luke Brown. And at times, you see him and you're surprised that he's on the ground because you hadn't seen him for 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think he's ever really been a creative player. I think he's always been.
Oh, he used to be. Him and Lairdy used to. Him and Lairdy used to do a lot of overlap running, Mac.
Well, fair enough, but I've always just seen him as you'd put him on their best forward, and he just genuinely negate them down to nothing.
Yeah.
But he used to be able to get away from them as well, and he's one of the best kicks in the team.
Yep, 100%.
The players actually used to. It was a couple of years ago, but when they asked if you had a player from 50 who was kicking for goal to win you the match after the siren, who would you have? And almost unanimously, our team actually picked Luke Brown because he's that beautiful and accurate a kick. One of our best passages of play we actually had today involved the defence running through the midfield, and Luke was actually a part of that. And I think he was one of the last kicks in to the forward line. But then they had to go back and quite deep in defending again. But I think you're right, Finn. We're not seeing him as proactive. I think this is our theme for this week, proactive. We're just not quite seeing that from him. And that could be that coming back from the injury. He is that little bit older. He did his job in shutting down his forward.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was the worst, but I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, Jad in the YouTube chat makes the point that I guess that I'm making in that Luke Brown is experienced enough to be aggressive and creative with his disposal, and yet you never see Luke Brown take that 45 chiseler. You know what I mean? It's always down the ground, or it's always a little sideways park. Same as Jake Kelly. You know, the two of them, they will not take a risk. And now Jake Kelly, I don't mind because he hasn't got the skills. But Luke Brown does have the skills, or he did have the skills. And we need a bloke like him. With McPherson being new, you know, we need a bloke like Luke Brown to take the game on a little bit more. And if that means that he's a little bit looser on his player, I still think that there's other players that could take small forwards in our team, but we need a bloke of his experience to take the game on a little bit more, in my opinion. And that's probably why I've got him. It's probably a bit of a rising star and reverse syndrome because I haven't been impressed with Luke all season. So I guess it's just an amalgamation of 5 rounds now.
It'll give him the waning star thing.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly right.
You didn't play all of those 5 rounds, by the way.
I don't care.
It's his story.
And I'm sticking to it. Of the rest, look, you know, we won't go through any more, but I thought Jake Kelly was very average, even though he got 19 touches. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, you got to mention with Jake Kelly, though, in that forward, when he about 35, 40 metres out from goal, and instead of having a shot for goal, he kicks across absolutely parallel to the goal, straight to the opposition, and away it goes. I could not believe it. It's his one chance in life to have a shot for goal, and he shit himself.
Harry Schomburg, I thought, was a bit sloppy today. Wasn't his usual silky self. Do you agree with that?
He was still making that space that he can do, but yeah, I think because it was such a tighter contested game, that was causing him a few little issues of trying to create a bit more of that space. I mean, Matty J, you know, he still had some good moments, but I agree, it wasn't as clean as we've seen him.
No, 5 turnovers and missed a few targets. Had a little bit more time in the midfield, and yet didn't really figure in the clearance stats to any great degree. Even though he spent a lot of his time through that middle half of the ground, or the middle third of the ground, I should say, between half back and half forward. So you would expect that he should have figured higher in stoppage and stoppage clearances, etc. So he probably is still feeling his way in that regard, but it'll be good when he can get more involved at stoppage, particularly while Sloaney's out, I think.
Yeah, look, he's still learning the game too, because he hasn't had that many games
100%.
at AFL level.
Yeah.
So I still think he's going to develop into a very good player.
Oh, no doubt about it, Mac. We're just talking about this individual game. Look, I think, and anyone that's sitting in the stage audience at the moment, if you do have an opinion on any of those players or any other player, stick your hand up and tell us what you think. Look, I think as a general comment, I think we're just at the end of a run. I think we've been up for quite some time, and that includes the end of last season. Well, what have we're 7 out of the last, 10 or 11 now? Which isn't a bad run from a team that's in our position, list-wise.
Yeah.
No, I think we've done pretty well. I didn't think we'd probably be as good as this because I didn't expect to win the first one. I've always thought if we can win 6 to 8 games this year, we've done very well.
And I think we're still probably tracking for that, Mac. I think we're seeing the first signs of fatigue, and not so much in terms of aerobic fatigue, but in terms of niggles and soreness and that sort of stuff. They're a young group, and amongst that young group, we've also got some quite senior players, as we've spoken about before. There's that real dip in the middle. So it's going to be interesting to see how Nix manages it. Certainly publicly, he's doing the old back the boys in, which really annoys me. But I'd like to see a few changes next week. I think certainly from my perspective, Elliot Himmelberg needs to come in. Now, whether that's for Billy Frampton or whether that's for Tex, I'm not sure.
Well, it depends on how fit he is. I mean, I saw his calf was wrapped up very tightly, and you got to think that maybe he should have a week off. But
okay, you know as well as I do, calves are 3. Yes, it did. It did stop him from jumping. He was going up one-handed again, Nick.
Yeah.
That one in the first quarter, that wasn't one-handed.
That was before he started to tighten up. He probably had a nice little jab beforehand.
He tightened up in the third quarter, Nick. So that was before that. I'll tell you one player who won't be coming in next week, and that's Chase Jones. 3 disposals in the Sandful.
Yeah.
This kid, how can we've got it so wrong, or what's happened to this kid?
Well, I'd rather not talk about Chase because I think he's got some stuff to work through, and he probably doesn't need any more heat, to be honest, Mac.
Okay.
But there's not a lot else pushing through, though, really, because the players that we do have ready to push through from the twos are young, so they're not really going to add anything to the team, you wouldn't think. We've got a few injured players like Talia and that to come in, but in terms of midfield strength, I think what you see is what you get, and it shows that we are still quite thin until we get 50 games into these lads, and so I'm quite keen to see blokes like Pedler come in just so that we can get some games into them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There's 2 or 3 there that probably we should give games to throughout the year. And I'm not saying necessarily next week, but Pedler's one, Newchurch is another, Worrell is another, Haitley. They should be part of the future, you'd hope.
Yeah, well, Worrell need, and like even Borlace, I wouldn't.
Borlace, yeah, I forgot him. Yeah. He's going to be good. Yeah,
wouldn't mind seeing what he's got to offer too. So there's a bit there, but I think we've seen over the last few years Gold Coast get off to flyers and then fall in a heap, and I think our season might be similar because we just don't have enough quality players to be able to maintain our form. I think we'll be quite serviceable in parts, but I think we're actually going to be heading into a lean period over the next 4 to 6 weeks, to be honest. That's my feel.
Well, we got some games coming up against top teams too after the next couple of weeks, and I think then that's really going to be when we'll get a few buildings in those games.
Well,
and
to
add to your fatigue kind of comment, I think there's also a little bit of mental fatigue.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, because what we've seen from the team and what we've kind of lauded with what they've done is that they've stayed in games.
Yep.
And, fighting to the end and acknowledging that this is a young group overall, that also does take a bit out of you mentally.
100%, Nick. Don't disagree with that at all. And I think we've exceeded expectations in the first half of, in the first 5 rounds. And whilst people might be a bit disappointed because we now seem to be shuffling back to the pack, I think what we've been able to see in these first 4 or 5 rounds is a glimpse of the future. So a glimpse of players when they're fully fit and, running on top of the ground. We've seen what they can offer, but we know that the AFL season is a grind, and there's nothing like 50 games in your legs to get that base fitness, and a lot of these lads just don't have that yet. And until they do, I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle. So, I think, as Mac pointed out with the upcoming fixtures, I think it might be a little bit tough going over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Now, the audience is strangely quiet, but that's okay. If you do have anything to say in the audience, or if you're in the chat at the moment and you want to have something to say, jump into the wrap stage. If you're in the audience there, all you got to do is click on the hand button, and we'll invite you in to have a chat. But who have we got next week?
Hawthorn, Tasmania.
So now the way the Hawks have been tracking, on the surface, you would say that that's a bit of a win. But 2 things figure against us, I think. One is the fatigue issue that we just spoke about. But second is bloody Tasmania.
Oh, well, there's no doubt about that. The other thing is Alistair Clarkson as well. I actually saw that game and a fair bit of that game, and Hawthorn really took it up to Melbourne for a long time, and Melbourne are going to be they are a very good side. I think the two sides that really impressed me at the moment are the Bulldogs and Melbourne, and Hawthorn was very good for the first half. A bit like ourselves, started to fade in the third quarter, and then in the end just not in it. But I think it'll be 2 teams of pretty much the same standard. Although theirs is got a lot of tired older players, and we've got quite a few not quite there younger players. So it'll be an interesting game, and I think that I would think if I had to go for a selection, I'd say Hawthorn will beat us.
Nick, what do you reckon?
I think it's the problem is that bloody down in Tassie. I think if it was in Melbourne, we'd be a much greater chance. But I think just being down in Tassie, just seeing how little tired we are, and if there aren't changes made, then I think that's the issue. I agree that Himmelberg needs to come in, but if that doesn't happen, it's definitely a Hawthorn win.
Yeah, I think they win in. Sorry, Fane, go ahead.
No, I don't want to interrupt you, Mac.
No, I'm over it, mate. We've moved on.
Look, I don't think we actually have the cattle for Hawthorn this week, and I think Tassie being Tassie, it's a bit of a pain in the arse trip from Adelaide because it's 2 flights. Yeah. Will we bring Chase Jones in?
Oh God!
On the back of his 3 touches. But yeah, no. Look, I think it'll be a bit of a dour contest. Hawks aren't scoring highly at the moment. They seem to be struggling to put big scores on the board. So I think Clarkson will try to shut it down, to be honest.
Yeah, and they've got a couple of good midfielders in Mitchell and Worrell. What's his name? The young bloke with the blonde hair. I can't remember his bloody name, but Warple.
Yeah, no, he's a good lad.
Yeah, and they are good ball getters. But I just think that they're just a little bit more hardened than us. And I know they've got a couple of young players in there, but I just think the travel going down to Tassie. I just don't think that we're just going to be good enough to take this one out.
I agree. Now, Nikki.
Nah.
let's talk about the unfortunate loss by the Adelaide Crows women's team, going down to Brisbane by a couple of about 3 goals in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, when we only scored like 3 goals ourselves, that's not good.
So, tell us all about it.
Half the team didn't turn up to play, basically. That's the way it looked at the ground. I was a little worried when they were doing the warm-up and they were like running towards the crowd. The crowd's done a big cheer, support them. And a couple of the girls, started clapping and like thumbs up back at the crowd. And I'm like, get your head in the game. And that was before it started. And I think that was kind of showed through. I do wonder whether we'd played our grand final the week before against Melbourne, because Melbourne's one team we've really struggled against. And I think it looked like that took a lot out of our game. I'll give some kudos, though, to Eloise Jones, Sarah Allen, Stevie Lee, Ange Foley, which unfortunately has now been confirmed she has ruptured her ACL. Who else was... Hatchard tried, but they were tagging her quite tightly and she wasn't getting support from the rest of the midfield.
She still played well, though.
Yeah, she did. And that was kind of about it, maybe. The rest of them seemed like that they were trying too much instead of just getting it on the bloody boot and kicking it. They were trying to break tackles. Now, I love Chloe Shear. Absolutely love Chloe Shear and her talent. But she thought she had so much time and what she could do, get around. And often I know how fast she can dispose of it. And that she didn't. She just tried to make it an easier kick and get around. And, of course, they got caught every time. The fact that, though, out of the 5 grand finals we've had, we've made 3 of them. Bloody well done to our club for doing that. I do understand how Brisbane Lions fans felt after the 2nd grand final, because there was some very interesting umpiring. And I did see a comment you'd made on Twitter, Fiend.
The fix was in.
Oh my God, was it?
Yeah.
I think the problem we've also got was we really shouldn't have played Phillips. She should have been rested a couple of weeks ago. But she was a massive, massive liability.
Yeah, you did right.
Well, she was a liability, and Chelsea Randa was a big loss.
She's a massive loss. But, the one thing about our team has been, like, for other teams, they'd lose a player like Randall, and normally that means it's the death knell for that team. That hasn't quite been the case for our AFLW team. And the other thing is I looked at is that we're actually quite a young team. We don't have too many older players, but I think...
I think most teams are like that, though.
Yeah.
Most teams are like that. Look, I think, Nick, to be perfectly honest with you, what I saw from the game was a tired Adelaide and a frenetic Brisbane. A frenetic Brisbane that were not going to die wondering. Their defence, their pressure on the ball carrier, and their ability to crowd the contest and force turnovers was amazing. It was amazing. And I think our girls actually did well to withstand it for as long as they did, given that they didn't look their best and they looked a little bit, as you mentioned, maybe one game too many. But the only way we're going to... I thought to myself at halftime, the only way we're going to win that is if Brisbane's intensity dropped off. And it didn't drop off. And as a consequence, I think it was inevitable that they overran us.
They got their chances.
Yeah, I just don't think we had the legs.
Yeah, the other thing too, that Adelaide's got 4 match winners, and Chelsea Randall didn't play. Phillips could barely walk, and the 2 that were in tip-top form previously, Ebony Marinoff and Hatchard, they tagged the living daylights out of them, which meant that the four components of the engine that drives the bloody team, they just weren't there. So and that meant and the fringe players just couldn't do it on their own. So I thought the coach of Brisbane, I thought he did a great job in just neutralising any chance that Adelaide had. Once when I saw that Marinoff was being totally neutralised by heavy tagging, and Hatchard, to her credit, kept getting kicks even though she had players hanging off her everywhere. But Phillips could barely walk, and no Chelsea Randall. No, we didn't have a chance.
Yeah, and Surfers actually, is great point. The Brisbane were hungry than us, and they wanted it more, and they've had two absolutely devastating grand final losses,
100%.
and so you can understand where that desire was coming from.
Yeah.
But the other point that they'd made earlier was about Ash Woodland. And whilst we've heard a lot of people raving about it, I've always had an issue is because she's come from as a defender, she still plays like a defender up forward. She doesn't react naturally to the play that's happening and instinctively. And she's got some really great weapons. So I hope that working through the season this year that they actually do get her to play a few more games, probably at the lower levels, etc. But she needs to learn how to work as a forward and bring in that natural instinct of get in front of your defender, react as soon as we get the ball, and not wait a little bit. So she kept getting caught behind when we were actually getting the ball. We had so many inside 50s, but this is what's been our issue all year, is we're not converting the number of the ones that we're actually getting in there. As soon as we do, as soon as we can fix that up, we're going to be very hard to stop.
Yeah,
but
it looks like we actually we need another marking player, in my opinion, up forward.
Yeah.
We just
Montana McKinnon hasn't played this year. Now, she was our top pick last year. If it wasn't a restricted draft, I think there would have been a number of other teams that would have been very, very interested in her because she absolutely clunks it. But with Metcalf coming back and Gould playing well, that's kind of kept her out. And I just wonder whether we needed to possibly use her up forward because she's a lovely tall player and she literally marks anything that comes her way.
I agree. Well, look, it was a good season anyway by the girls. And to make another grand final. Look, and let's be honest, everyone was against her. The media was all on the Brisbane train, the hype train, all week.
Yeah.
The umpires were on the Brisbane train at least early in the game.
Oh,
they
God.
certainly...
I love the moment where Brisbane stopped, we stopped, because we all knew a free was about to be paid, and then they all looked at the umpire going, why haven't you blown the whistle? And he's just standing there like, what? Yeah. What am I going to do? Because quite honestly, if they're going to do in the AFLW like they do in the AFL Men's Grand Final, of you want the play to flow, then guess what? You bounce the ball, you signal for a goal or a point, and that's it. You might pay a mark. Then don't pay any other frees. But unfortunately, what they did was they only paid some frees, sometimes.
Oh well,
and
Nick,
that's what gets everybody frustrated.
Never mind. It was a good effort to make another GF, and I'm sure the girls will bounce back again next year. I wouldn't mind betting that Erin retires. She did mention that she was coming on 36. That might be it. Although there didn't seem to be any sort of indication that was like they didn't clap her off or anything like that. So
she should.
No, both of her knees are
pretty cooked. And speaking of knees, it was terrible to see our captain go down with an ACL.
Had an outstanding year.
Yeah, that was a shame. And for both captains to go down in 5 minutes, that was terrible. When I saw Emma sitting on the bench and tears in her eyes, I'm just like, oh
no. I mean, that wasn't so, because she's been a great player since the start of this league. But I'd also like to say thank you to the Adelaide Football Club for paying for my tickets for the whole year. Well done.
Oh, that's nice of them.
Well, yeah, they did that because the AFL brought in the paid tickets after everybody had set their membership and people had paid for their membership. So thank you to the LA Football Club for supporting all the members in that way.
Good on you, Crows.
And that included the finals series as well.
Very good. Well, look, lady and gentlemen, I think that may well have done us for the day. A disappointing round for both men and women, but not a disappointing round for the CrowCast, Macca, because we've got a new innovation, and I know you were grumpy about it, and you came on and you were shitty, and that's fine. We missed you.
Thanks, mate.
But look, thank you to Maddie and PJ and Razor and Tommy and J-Mac who got in the audience, and for PJ and Kempy for having a bit to say. I think what we might actually do next week, guys, what do you reckon? We might actually open up the floor for a 5-minute listeners forum. That might become a new segment. We'll have to think that one through. What do you reckon?
We might have to find out beforehand what the forum.
I don't know. That's fine. I can always bloody mute them anyway, so that's no dramas.
PJ says you've got to arrange a meat tray.
All right. Well, look. Thanks to everyone who's joined us on the chat. Everyone,
love a good meat tray.
thanks, Nick. It's my outro now. Shut up. Thanks to everyone who's joined us on Discord, everyone who's joined us on YouTube and Twitch. Don't forget, if you want to support us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/AFL CrowCast. And Nikki, Macca, ladies and gentlemen, I think that might be it. What do you reckon?
Yep, I think that's sign-off time.
Very good.
Night all.
Night all.
Good night all.